Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you all for attending today. On December 16th, a tragedy hit our community at the Abundant Life Christian School. Unfortunately, a tragedy that has been repeated far too many times in our country. In the days, weeks, and months that followed the shooting, our detectives and investigative teams have worked tirelessly to follow up on leads, review documents, examine evidence, and help coordinate support for the victims of the tragedy. This morning, after months of work and direct collaboration with the Dane County District Attorney's Office, we arrested Jeffrey Rupnow, the father of the shooter. Rupnow was taken into custody shortly before 4 a.m. this morning and was booked into the Dane County Jail. He has been charged with contributing to the delinquency of a child and 2 counts of providing a dangerous weapon to a person under 18, resulting in death. These are all felony charges in the state of Wisconsin. He's expected to make his initial appearance tomorrow, likely tomorrow morning, and he's been cooperative with our investigation. A criminal complaint in this case was unsealed just a couple of hours ago. We know that many of you still have questions about this case. We'll do our best to try to answer those questions today, and we'll share some information with you that has been included in the complaint. We want to thank you for your patience, especially as we conducted this thorough investigation and impartial investigation. Many continue to ask about the motive of this case. Why would a 15-year-old open fire in her school, murder a teacher, classmates, and injure 6 others? We may never fully understand that motive. We do know the teenager had a fascination with weapons and school shootings. She often talked about them with people she met online, people from all over the world. We also recovered writings, including what amounted to a written manifesto. It was titled War Against Humanity, along with other documents, drawings, and videos, all in her home detailing interest to mass violence. The items recovered were disturbing, they were alarming, and they would have led any average person to the conclusion of violence, to the concern of violence, rather. 2 guns, a 9mm and a .22 caliber firearm, along with magazines and ammunition, were recovered at the school. Only 1 firearm was used by the shooter. These firearms were purchased legally at stores here in Dane County. They were purchased by the shooter's father, Jeffrey Rupnow. Multiple other weapons were recovered during a search of the home. All of these weapons, including one that was about to be gifted to the same teen, were purchased legally. There was a gun safe in the home. Based on our investigation, it did not stop the teenager from having regular access to the firearms. On the day of the shooting, the teen overslept. She took a ride share to school. She arrived at 10:39 a.m. and went to the main office. After that, she stopped at a locker. She spent time in a restroom before heading upstairs and opening fire. The first gunshots were heard at 10:54 a.m. First officers were dispatched at 10:57 a.m. The call generated a multi-jurisdictional response, with the first officer arriving on scene at 11 a.m. This first officer immediately entered the building. The teen began shooting inside of a study hall class, killed a teacher and a 14-year-old classmate. 5 other students inside the same classroom were injured, and a teacher in an adjacent room was also injured. As of today, 1 student remains hospitalized. The suspect then died by suicide, and one of the injured students in the room quickly grabbed the gun that was used and hid it in a nearby desk drawer. The true heroes of that day were these students in the school, their classmates, and every employee of the ALCS. You all showed courage and compassion to one another during your darkest day. Please know that you are not alone, and you will always have our support. I want to take a minute to thank every officer, deputy, firefighter, paramedic who responded to this event. Your bravery and action saved lives. I want to thank our detectives and investigative teams for all their hard work and dedicated service that they've given our community during this investigation. I want to thank our federal partners who have assisted our team and our local partners who came to our aid from literally all over Dane County. I also want to thank the Dane County District Attorney for his collaboration and the collaboration from his team. Thank you as well to the entire Dane County Victim Witness Unit for their ongoing support of the ALCS community and the support of victims of this tragedy, as well as the support from the Violence Prevention Unit of Public Health for their ongoing support and work with those affected. Thank you to all the medical professionals at our hospitals. Their care has continued for many weeks. Thank you especially to the Dean Clinic. Your willingness to partner with us on that day, aid our response, and help our reunification of families will really never be forgotten. Thank you to our Madison Employee Assistance Program and our peer support team. They continue to try to help us all navigate this tragedy that we all experienced. Finally, I want to say thank you to you, Mayor, and your staff. You were there on day one supporting us with our response, and your support has remained steadfast throughout our investigation, so thank you. I know there's been some frustration today about the timing of the announcement for this press conference and when information was shared about the arrest. I want to explain the complaint for this warrant was sealed by the court. It was sealed to allow our staff some time to contact the ALCS community, to reach out to victims, and to their families. It was also sealed to prevent disclosure prior to an arrest. We would have violated the court order if we would have shared any more information than what we shared earlier today. And when we could update the release, we did. After our mayor speaks, we'll try to answer some questions. However, I want to make an ask to all of you, and I know we made this ask in the written notice. Please consider leaving the ALCS community alone today. Let them some time to process this news. Please remember we are one Madison community. Give them that time. I truly hope that they can finish their school day today and tomorrow without cameras, without interview requests, and without distraction. Thank you. Mayor Rhodes' comment.
Thank you, Chief. I want to thank Chief Patterson and the entire Madison Police Department, former Chief Sean Barnes, and all of the first responders from communities all around Dane County for their incredible response immediately following the tragedy. MPD has been working for months, conducting a thorough investigation, and our community is grateful for your collective professionalism and hard work in the face of this tragedy. I also want to thank the city's Violence Prevention Unit, which has been working with both the county and the state to do everything that we can to support the victims and their families. The outpouring of support that we've seen from the Madison community has been really, really remarkable. And I'm very proud to represent a city that responds to an unthinkable tragedy like this with acts of compassion and kindness, not just on that day, but on many, many days since, and continuing into the future. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the impacted families and the entire Abundant Life community. This is another tough day for them. And as the chief said, I just hope that we can all show these families and the community the respect that they deserve and be mindful of their privacy and the fact that really any new news in this case can be re-traumatizing for people who have experienced gun violence. I'm not going to add any more details to what the chief already said about today's arrest. As you heard, we will take questions in a minute, and they will, of course, provide the information that they can without compromising the pending legal case. What I do want to address is how we, as a city, as a state, and as a nation can respond to a horrific act of violence being committed in a school filled with children. There are a number of common sense rules and regulations that this state and our federal government could pass tomorrow that have overwhelming support from the public. This shouldn't be political. The refusal to prioritize gun violence prevention only makes it harder for those of us at the local level, police chiefs, their staff, and our families to keep our communities safe. Gun owners also have a responsibility here. The responsibility to secure their weapons and prevent guns from falling into the wrong hands. Please, if you own a gun, buy a gun lock, get a gun safe, and use them. We must make these safeguards as accessible and easy to purchase as the guns themselves. What shouldn't ever be controversial is that children should never have the opportunity to use a gun to harm a classmate, a teacher, or a loved one, whether by accident or on purpose. Guns are not a solution to conflict, and we must stop normalizing their use and their accessibility. What happened at Abundant Life Christian School should have been impossible. Instead, we live in a world where preventing a similar tragedy is what feels impossible, and that is not okay. We need to make it impossible for kids to have access to deadly weapons. We need to reject hate, conspiracies, and disinformation that fuel these violent acts. If our young people are experiencing mental health issues, we need to provide them with the resources to heal and to reach their full potential. We need to make our schools sanctuaries for knowledge, not fortresses designed to withstand attack. We need to stop pretending that guns in the home make our children safer when we know that the exact opposite is true. We need to end the cultural and political numbness that made Madison one of countless communities that bear the scars of our nation's collective indifference to gun violence. Justice will never truly be served until we do. The chief and I are available to answer questions. Please remember that while we value transparency, there will be some questions that we cannot answer at this time. This case is now in the hands of the district attorney, and that office may be the appropriate authority to provide more details regarding the charges and the proceedings going forward. Thank you, and we'd be happy to take some questions.
So there's been some news reports in the last couple of months regarding investigations in other states, Tennessee, California. How are they going to play into the case? Is that were those uncovered during the course of the investigation?
What I can say is we've been very appreciative of the help of our federal partners. We've been collaborating with them during this investigation. This focus today has been entirely on here and what happened locally. And so I can't divulge further that would connect one case to another, but we have been collaborative. Yes, go ahead.
What's changed from December to now? Why the 5-month gap between the incident and the arrest?
It's been, again, a very thorough, lengthy, impartial investigation. It's taken some time to get to this point. We really valued the collaboration of the Dane County DA's office, and that has led us to today. It's taken some time to get to this point, but I'm very proud of the investigative work that's transpired, and I think we've been very deliberate and intentional with where we are now. So.
Will anyone else be charged in this arrest?
I can't comment on that right now.
I know that there was a man in Florida who was arrested, or there was an affidavit filed recently connected to this case. What role did that play at all in today's arrest?
I can't speak to that particular case. I can tell you I learned the details of that similar to all of you, and that was through, through the media. We were notified ahead of time that it was transpiring, but, details were not known until then, so.
The complaint mentions high-risk online behavior was brought to the dad's attention in June 2022. Can you tell us more about that and kind of define what high-risk behavior means in that case?
Well, I think I described some of the behavior that we found concerning the documents, the videos, the online activity, but that's about all I can describe right now. So I'm going to go to the back of the room now because we need to give, right here in the center, with your hand up, please.
The criminal complaint explained that Natalie told people that her father was abusive towards her. Did you find any evidence that points that Jeffrey was abusive towards her?
I can't comment further on that. He has one charge of contributing to that delinquency, but I can't get too far into that.
In the criminal complaint, Jeffrey right now told police he believes it's possible that his daughter knew the password to his gun safe. Do you believe that she took one or both of the guns that she brought to school on December 16th out of a locked safe?
Is there anything in the complaint that we can share further on that or no?
I don't.
Come to the mic.
I don't think necessarily that we can divulge that, or that we know if she was able to access the safe or if they were left out of the safe. We know she ended up getting access to them.
Were any of the guns that were recovered at the scene gifted to her, or were they all hers?
The guns that were recovered at the scene were, I mean, she can't legally own a gun, but they were, her father knew that she had them, or at least had access to them.
There's some more details in the complaint too that I think will help you with that answer. And as we stated, there was one, was intended to be a gift, so.
So going back to the high-risk behavior, was there awareness that, she was posting some of the stuff that you found super concerning during the investigation in 2022? Because the criminal complaint outlines that, they notified the father in 2022 of online behavior that was concerning.
I can't speak today as what he may have known in 2022, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When those notifications are made, does the police department continue to follow up on those cases, or is the notification the end point?
Which notifications
The
are
June
you
2022 notification that the shooter was engaging in high-risk online behavior, they notified Jeffrey. Did they follow up with Jeffrey? Did they follow up on this high-risk behavior?
I can't speak further to the follow-up that was done. I don't know if you're able to, but I'm not able to.
Yeah, at this point, I think we're comfortable talking about the things that are publicly available in the complaint. The case is in the hands of the DA's office now, so providing information outside of the complaint really isn't within our purview at this point in the interest of respecting the legal proceedings ahead.
Can you define high-risk behavior, though, just so that there's an understanding of what that meant when used in the complaint?
I mean, I think, like we're suggesting, there's online activity where you have a young person talking about mass violence. I would consider that high-risk behavior.
So is that what she was doing? Like, I'm just trying to kind of help people
It was
understand what this means.
a clear fascination with mass violence, with school shootings, and with weapons, and that is concerning.
Was there a particular person who radicalized her?
That I can't speak to. I mean, like I said, there was a fixation. There was interactions with individuals online that clearly was contributing to this fascination, maybe even deepening it. I don't know, but that's concerning behavior. I said a hand back here.
Contribute to the child delinquency charge, and is there anything else that is contributing to that charge specifically?
Can we get into that or no?
I mean, I think the totality of the complaint sort of describes the charges in and of themselves. I mean, that's the purpose of the complaint. So again, we would leave that to the legal professionals to describe the charging, but the complaint describes the behavior and the charges, and I think we'd fall back on that.
What message do these charges send to the public?
Well, I'm a parent of 3. I have a daughter who's 15. As a cop, maybe I'm at a different level than some people, but I try very hard to understand what's going on online. And I hope other parents are doing the same and that they're trying to, be aware of what's occurring. But as obviously I'm a gun owner, I mean, I think, as a gun owner, I accept a responsibility to my community that I'm going go home and restrict access to people that shouldn't have access to it, that I'm going to make sure it's locked and stored responsibly. And if not, I should be held accountable, and I think that's what today is about. So.
I have a question for the mayor. So, the state hasn't taken up any action on gun legislation, and of course today we had the first major vote in the budget proceeding, which removed, the 24-hour waiting period, which I know wasn't, included in this situation. But what would you like to see the legislature doing? What kind of policy would you like to see introduced, to prevent situations like this from occurring again in Wisconsin schools?
Well, I think that there's a number of things that either the legislature or Congress could do to make sure that people, including young people who shouldn't have weapons, don't have access to those weapons. And so that certainly would include requiring more background checks, strong red flag laws. I think, again, what we're seeing today is a call and an action to hold parents accountable if their children can access their firearms. And so I think there's some room there for potential legislation to make it clear about that accountability. But I think there's a number of really common sense proposals that have been around for years that the legislature could take up and that would help. But it really is about making sure that people who should not have access to guns, whether that's because of age, because of mental health, because of background, whatever it might be, don't have access to those guns. And then, the other piece of this is really making sure that responsible gun owners are doing everything they can to make sure that those guns do not fall into the hands of people who should not have them. That certainly includes parents restricting access to children, but it also includes folks, don't store your gun in your car, for example. Like, don't put your gun in a place where it could easily be stolen. And I think that we as a community need to talk a lot more about that and make sure that folks who are absolutely legally able to own a gun and are responsible owners are taking care of them and making sure they don't get out into our community.
What was the school's reaction when told about the arrest?
I can tell you that we've worked diligently with our staff, with Dane County Victim Witness staff and others to make sure the community was as notified as we could, to include victims and their families, but I can't get into the details of those conversations.
According to your department, you were going to interview some classmates to see if she was bullied. Do you have any details about what was uncovered there?
I don't have those details today.
Anything
No.
further about the gender identity of Natalie?
I don't have those details, no.
Chief, why the middle of the night arrest?
Well, it worked well, frankly, to when we knew his patterns were, for his work life and home life, and so that's the reason.
Was there a flight risk?
Like I said, he's been cooperative, and so that's all I can say right now. He's been cooperative with the investigation.
Is the Madison Police Department investigation still opening, and are you examining other potential suspects right now?
All I can say is today is about what we have in front of us with Mr. Ruppnow. The case is not closed, obviously, until this kind of runs its course, I guess, through the court system and with the Dane County District Attorney's Office. But this has been an incredibly complex case. We've seen connections to other states, as you've pointed out. So I couldn't say with a straight face that it's going to be over. I think this has been an investigation unlike we've ever really seen, at least in my time. So.
High-risk arrest?
I'm sorry?
Was the arrest a high-risk arrest?
It was done after a traffic stop. So. Yep, I'm sorry. Go
What
ahead.
originally sparked the investigation into the father, and what kind of statement do you think this makes for other parents? Because as you said, these guns were kind of just out and about, it was easy to obtain.
Well, like I said, I think, if there are guns in the home, I hope people are rising to the responsibility that they've accepted, frankly, as gun owners, to properly store and to, ensure that they're not falling into the, hands of children or hands of individuals that shouldn't have them. But we, obviously, as you know, the day of, we made contact with the family, with Mr. Ruppnow at their home, and that's when things started. So.
Do you
Were there
envision federal
particular
charges?
obstacles over the last 5 months that contributed to the amount of time that it took between the incident and today?
Well, I mean, the largest obstacle was the complexity and the size of the case. I mean, the number of people that attend the school, added to the number of first responders that went to the school on that day and completed documents that needed to be reviewed, helped collect evidence. It was a mountain of work to be dealt with, and unfortunately, this was, in my opinion, a very appropriate speed to get to a very deliberate and appropriate resolution. So,
Could he face any federal charges?
I can't comment on that right now. I don't know. Yeah.
Mayor, I spoke to someone earlier today who knows Mr. Rupp now and was clearly emotional talking about this entire situation. Can you just tell us the toll this has taken on the community the last 5 months?
Yeah, I think that both here in Madison and really in any community that's impacted by this level of gun violence, it's really very difficult. I mean, first and foremost, for the Abundant Life community, I think this has been an incredibly difficult time. They are a tight-knit, strong community, and they received a large outpouring of support right away. But this is something that every single one of those kids and their parents and their families, all of the teachers and the staff and their families have to live with for the rest of their lives. And I think in talking to folks, it's really day by day how they're doing. And it is really challenging. As a survivor of gun violence myself, and my family has been impacted, it takes a long time to even feel like you can have a normal day after something like this. So my heart continues to go out to the entire ALCS community and to everyone who is impacted, because even folks who didn't go to that school, have kids in other schools, have that same level of fear about what might happen. So I think it's been really hugely impactful for the Madison community. But again, I'm really proud of how we've come together and the resources that we've made available and the support that we've offered to everybody who's been impacted. I just hope that we don't have to rally at this level again. I hope this never happens again, certainly in Madison, but really anywhere. So, one more question and then we'll have to close. Yes, ma'am.
This is for police. In December, after the guns were seized, you guys were aware that he did go to try to purchase another firearm. Did he share about his motivation for doing so?
No, I mean, I have to stick to what's in the complaint, but like I said, we've had cooperation from Mr. Rupp now, so. Yep.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much.